Kia ora, hello, I'm Philip Duncan. Thanks for joining us for our Friday weather update recorded on the 19th of September. We've got heavy rain, gales, a solar eclipse, frosts, and some sunshine all on the way. So let's try and make sense of that for you. This is the water vapor map. Water vapor is seen in the brighter white shading. So where it's darker, that's where the air is driest. So we've got dry air coming through. That is all thanks to that southerly flow. Now there are still some showers around, especially for the North Island, both on the east and west coasts. But as we go through Friday and into tonight, that southerly with the drier air moves on in. There is a lot of energy still over in Tasmania. That is coming our way as we go through the weekend. But you can see here on the air pressure map, high pressure is finally coming in, at least for the North Island. It is spreading a ridge over the South Island. That's why we've got frosts around at the moment. So as we go into this evening, the southerly that's been blowing through today starts to ease and we get the lighter winds, and of course that brings in the frosts. But behind the high, northwesterly winds will develop, and you'll feel those in the South Island as early as even tonight and certainly across tomorrow as they start to build up. So let's make sense of everything that is going on. Here we are this afternoon, 3 p.m. I don't normally show you the today one, but I wanted to show you that the polar boundary has gone right up to the Auckland, Waikato, Coromandel, Bay of Plenty regions. And as these showers blown in by the southeasterly or easterly wind coming through for some of you, as those showers clear away, that's why we've got that frost risk coming in, lighter winds, drier skies, clearer skies around New Zealand. You might have noticed the temperature down a bit around the North Island today. South Islanders have had it for longer. So frosty weather comes through again tomorrow morning. Maybe not quite as frosty for some of you as it was this morning, but look at the North Island. Widespread frosts around a large part of the North Island, coming up to about Waikato and Bay of Plenty. Not really going further north than that by the looks of it, due to a bit of a breeze still around. Jump to Sunday, and you can very clearly notice those west to northwest winds picking up, and it just melts the frost away. They're basically only on the tops of the mountains and ranges. So lunchtime Saturday, the polar boundary gets blown out to sea. The Chatham Islands are still under the polar airflow, but the rest of the country is not. And that's because of these north to northwesterly winds that are building and pushing in across the country. The squeezed up isobars over the South Island indicates those winds picking up. So they could become gusty through some of the alpine valleys, but maybe not so much in the more populated areas. West Coast, some showers that'll turn to rain as we go through the day. Mainly dry on the North Island. You see a little bit of a sign of a shower around Auckland area. You know, whether that happens or not, it's a little tricky, but there will be the risk of some clouds around and maybe a shower. Otherwise, it is a dry Saturday. Make the most of your Saturday. Things start to go downhill on Sunday. In fact, it might even start on Saturday evening for some of you around the southwest corner. Big strong winds coming through, north to northwesterlies. These areas around the mountains of Canterbury, going further into the mountains properly, 140 kilometre an hour gusts on the tops. Now, as you come into the plains, those winds aren't as bad, but it does change as those winds slightly move direction through the day. That can push wind out into new places. So just keep up to date with those MetService warnings and watches. Now those severe gales in the purple, the darker shading, that will move further into the North Island as we go through Sunday. But it's one step forwards, one step backwards for the North Island, because as it moves into the North Island, it starts to weaken as well. Let's go to the rainfall map here on noon Sunday, showing 24 hours of rain. That's from noon Saturday to lunchtime Sunday. So the heaviest rain is over on the west coast, up to 100 millimetres for some of you. That's not usually too problematic for the west coast, but it could prompt some rain warnings, especially if you're out, tramping and camping. You want to be aware of heavy rain like that. That will then turn to snow in the southwest corner into the mountains. Windy weather from about Banks Peninsula going into the North Island, all going around the big high that is pulling down subtropical winds. So Sunday temperatures in the eastern North Island, they're going to be pretty nice. That'll make up for some of the colder weather you've had. And the top of the country as well, seeing some showers. That rain moves up the west coast as we go through Sunday. That takes us to Monday for the partial solar eclipse. Early in the morning, around sunrise, you could be seeing it, or you might not be. This shows the cloud cover with low, mid, and high level cloud. Now the purple high level cloud, that is not so problematic because you can usually sort of see the sun through it. But the lower level cloud through central New Zealand and the top of the country and even the south of New Zealand might get in the way. The good news is we've got our cloud trends, our cloud graphs. You can get it for free from the free Weather Watch New Zealand app, or just go to ruralweather.co.nz. It's got every part of the country covered, and in graph form, hopefully gives you some kind of guidance as to how cloudy it might be when you wake up on Monday. Noon Monday, you can see why it's cloudy. We've got this cloudy, showery northerly coming in for the top of the North Island, driving in a bit of wet weather for northern regions. And then as you come into the northwest corner of the South Island, talked about this the last couple of days, narrow band of rain, which when we just showed you the lunchtime update didn't look like much. But when you show 24 hours of rainfall, you see this area here, purple with a bit of blue in it. Blue actually just goes off the scale. So that's 100 to 150 millimetres in the Tasman area. So that's definitely worth monitoring. MetService should be having watches and warnings out for that, so keep up to date with that. Windiest weather will be around the North Island. It's not too major. The high pressure zone is powerful, but it's starting to slide away from us. And now the cold blast, polar air coming into Tassie and Victoria, that now starts to come back into New Zealand. It may not arrive until later at night time. By Tuesday, it's just brushing Fiordland and Southland Stewart Island area, maybe coming into parts of Otago. It's nothing too big, but you'll notice the temperature down again. That heavy rain around Nelson, Tasman area moves further into the Taranaki region on Tuesday, up to 60 millimetres there for you, and maybe clipping the far north. But it all depends on the high pressure zone. The high pressure zone shrinks a little bit by the time we get to Tuesday, but it also moves a little bit back towards us. So that, again, one step forwards, one step backwards, makes it a little tricky to perfectly lock in that line of heavy rain. So it may still move around. I think you'll be noticing that right up until the day itself. By the way, Tuesday is the spring equinox. If it says the 22nd on your calendar, that is going with the UTC time. It's a specific moment in time all around the planet. It happens at the same moment. So for us in New Zealand, it is Tuesday morning, around 6 in the morning that we get it. By noon Wednesday, now we're into the summer side of things officially, properly by Wednesday, we've still got that line of heavy rain stuck around the top of the North Island. And it's due to that high that's still getting weaker, but it's very close to us. So if the high doesn't get weaker faster or it changes shape a wee bit, changes the airflow behind it, and that means that rain could still move around. Seems to be pushing into Eastern Bay of Plenty, parts of Northland here on Wednesday, but because it's still a number of days out, we can't totally lock that in. Further down into the South Island, around Fiordland, heavy rain returns there, only a few showers coming in for Stewart Island and Southland. By Thursday, the next burst of polar air comes into the Tasman Sea, but it's nor'westers, a cold front, and a bit of low pressure as well. Low pressure over the South Island and over the Auckland Islands south of Southland. So we are seeing a bit of low pressure, some rain and showers, maybe a few thunderstorms in there as we go from the warmer airflow to the more polar one behind it. And by Friday, that polar airflow over Tasmania, also over the lower half of the South Island, those further north of it stuck in the windy westerlies. And there's a reason why we call it the roaring forties. The roaring forties go all the way up to about Wanganui, and that's the area that it sort of stops, so 40-degree latitude. So north of that, you won't notice any difference next week. It's just windy westerlies all over the entire country. So basically you can just say all of us are in the roaring 40s by next Friday. Here is the 7-day rainfall. So the bulk of that rain, Fiordland, around Tasman, where you are seeing over 100 to 200 millimetres in those areas, and also parts of Eastern Bay of Plenty, Taranaki, Central Plateau could also see some heavy areas of rain to keep an eye on. Driest weather in the darker blue, pink and purple shading, bottom of the scale there, couple of millimetres up to maybe 10 or 15 for some of those areas. Before I go, let's just jump over to the Northern Hemisphere where we've got 3 tropical lows to keep an eye on next week. One near India. It's not so much of a storm, but boy, it looks like a big rainmaker as that moves inland for them. The biggest one, this one here, number 2, could be a super typhoon coming from the east, moving in. Well, this map shows it directly hitting Hong Kong as a major typhoon. Yesterday's map, however, had it hitting Hainan. So it's in that area. We'll be monitoring that next week. And then out over the Pacific, basically north of New Zealand, another storm developing next week. That could come into parts of Japan. So there are a few different things going on next week north of New Zealand. But I think this one here, the one approaching China, Hong Kong area, that's the one to keep an eye on. Not 100% locked in, but the computer modelling certainly showing it up this week. They've already just had a typhoon come through there, although luckily it missed Hong Kong. That is all from me for this week. Have yourselves a great weekend. A quick programming note. On Monday, our video might be delayed by an hour or two. You might have noticed our video timing's been a bit all over the place the last couple of weeks. We've had internet issues, and believe me, a small internet issue when you're a small business can be a major problem. The uploading time to YouTube went from being a few minutes to being a few hours. So that's been resolved, but Monday, just a couple more things to finally check off. So if the video is late, it's not locked in, but if it is late, you know why. Have a great weekend. Good luck with that solar eclipse. I hope the skies clear up, and I'll see you on Monday.